6 years ago, Jamie and I tied the knot. I vividly recall the grandeur of our wedding, complete with 300 guests, 7 bridesmaids and groomsmen, and $20,000 worth of flowers. I remember the minister's question, "Do you, Jamie Elizabeth Snowden, take Blake William Benson to be your lawful wedded husband, forsaking all others, until death do you part?" and her resolute yes, accompanied by affectionate glances that I interpreted as a pledge of fidelity. In return, I made a similar commitment, gazing back at her with equal adoration. Jamie and I always seemed like a perfect match. We shared similar life goals and interests, yet maintained enough differences to keep things intriguing. Jamie's competitive nature, honed through years of sports, contrasted with my laid-back demeanor and preference for consensus. While I enjoyed sports, I lacked her drive for athletic success. She was more socially outgoing, adept at cultivating superficial relationships, while I, an ambivert, valued a few meaningful connections over many acquaintances. With a privileged upbringing and support from well-connected, affluent parents, Jamie received an excellent education at a prestigious Eastern U.S. college and secured a job as a pharmaceutical sales representative. Her success in the field was not only a result of her intelligence and education, but also her striking appearance. Big pharma seemed to favor attractive representatives, perhaps to distract clients from exorbitant pricing. Standing at 5 feet 7 inches with a well-proportioned body, long blonde hair, a captivating smile, and vivid green eyes, Jamie excelled in her career, wielding considerable autonomy in choosing drugs to sell and her territory. Jamie often explained her frequent business travels, which took her away from our upscale condo 3 nights a week or on occasional weekends. Her rationale usually involved the limited yet profitable market for the major drugs she represented, though I struggled to grasp the intricacies. Despite her explanations, I couldn't shake the loneliness and longing for companionship during her absences. During Jamie's frequent business trips, I often found myself at loose ends, occasionally joining male friends for movies, ball games, or bowling, but more often than not, I stayed home watching TV. Unlike Jamie, whose job involves extensive travel, my work as an online seller of proprietary computer software and hardware for renewable energy systems allows me to operate from the comfort of my condo. I've invented the products I sell and manage hardware production for a few hours each week from my high-tech home office. Being home during the day has acquainted me with most of our neighbors, a rarity in American condo buildings where interactions are limited to monthly meetings. Although neighbors urged me to become president of the condo association, I declined, but agreed to manage the association's finances. Our condo building features 4 two-story residences and 1 single-story unit per floor. The 2-story units boast an office, 3 bedrooms, a kitchen, spacious living room, and 3 full bathrooms. Meanwhile, the single-story units include a small living space, kitchen, bathroom, powder room, 1 bedroom, and a small den. Next to our 5th-floor entrance, 5A, is the single-story unit 5B, rented by a woman who appears too young to afford our upscale building's rent. I estimate she's around 23, not much younger than Jamie and me at 29. Her name is Cecile Wilson. Since most residents are absent during weekdays, they're unaware that Cecile is often home, entertaining 2 to 4 male visitors daily. Cecile's youthful appearance and the frequent male visitors led me to suspect she might be a high-end escort. Despite my suspicions about Cecile's profession, I never brought up the topic during the numerous times I encountered her at the pool or the health club in the first year of her living in 5B. There were 2 main reasons for this. Firstly, as long as she didn't cause any trouble, I couldn't care less about her profession, and secondly, it's not a topic suited for casual conversation. Cecile's appearance, you might wonder? Surprisingly, in the first year of her residency in 5B, I only saw her wearing makeup twice, as far as I can remember. She typically donned a conservative 1-piece swimsuit at the pool and overly baggy shorts and shirts in the exercise room. In the hallway or while going to and from the lobby, she often wore pants and a long-sleeve shirt. In public, she usually tied her long, lustrous brown hair in a bun and wore bulky black glasses. Despite seemingly having perfect vision, the lenses appeared to be plain glass. She clearly made a concerted effort to conceal her natural beauty when not interacting with clients. However, it was impossible for her to hide her stunning appearance completely. Cecile possessed an almost flawless face, ample bosom that even conservative attire couldn't conceal, and exceptionally long legs with thighs that any artist would admire for their sculptural qualities, and a posterior proportional to her sculpted thighs. Standing almost 6 feet tall, she was slim but not excessively so. During the first year of Cecile's residency in 5B, our relationship was pleasant, if not particularly close. We knew each other's first and last names, exchanged smiles and greetings when passing each other, engaged in a few superficial conversations during workouts or at the pool, and once, during a chance encounter at the local Kroger, had a brief discussion about cooking and serving organic vegetables. She was genuinely health conscious, not just in terms of exercise, but also regarding food. However, things took a turn one Thursday around 1 in the afternoon, a day when Jamie was out of town and expected to return Friday around 6 p.m. I was leaving 5A for one of my bi-weekly visits to my hardware manufacturing facility when I heard shouting and banging from 5B. This was highly unusual given the excellent sound insulation of the condo units. Listening at the door, I didn't like what I heard. It sounded like a man was physically assaulting a woman. I pounded on the door and announced, "Superintendent, open up." There was a brief silence, interrupted only by what sounded like sobbing. Then, a deep male voice responded through the door, "Get lost, we don't need anything." "Open the door or I'll call the cops," I retorted upon hearing continued sobbing. A large man swung the door open and shouted, "It's none of your business, now get away from my girlfriend and me." He seemed poised to say more, but when I saw Cecile on the ground and what appeared to be blood, I didn't let him finish. As part of my keychain, I carried a simple self-defense tool, a sturdy piece of plastic with finger indentations along a straight section, 2 rounded ends extending past the hand, and a thickened head that fitted between 2 fingers. The towering man stood over me, despite my own 6'2" stature, and likely outweighed me by 30 pounds. Gripping the self-defense tool tightly in my right hand, I swung it with force, connecting with the man's mouth using the enlarged head of the plastic stump. He stumbled backward as I advanced, delivering 2 more forceful blows. On the 3rd strike, he tripped over Cecile's body, hitting his head on her marble foyer floor before losing consciousness. Helping Cecile to her feet, I guided her to a padded chair and shut her front door behind us. She displayed signs of injury, a developing black eye, blood trickling from her nose, and scrapes on her arm and leg. Despite my best efforts to focus solely on aiding her, I couldn't help but notice her remarkable physique and stunning features. "Are you okay, Cecile?" I asked, perhaps foolishly. "Can I get you anything?" "I'm in pain," she groaned, taking a deep breath. "I'll manage, but could you fetch some paper towels for my nose and a cold compress from the freezer?" I promptly complied, fetching the requested items. As she applied the compress to her eye, I carefully wiped away the blood from her nose. "Who is that guy?" I inquired, gesturing toward the unconscious assailant. "An angry client," she muttered. "We should call the police," I suggested, finishing up with her nose. "No cops," she responded firmly. We debated calling the authorities for a few minutes, but it became evident that she was adamantly against it, likely due to concerns about her profession. Eventually, I relented and proposed an alternative. "I have an idea. I don't want him to think he can get away with this. Do you trust me to handle it?" I asked. "Yeah, as long as it's not here in my condo," she agreed, wincing in pain. Hurrying to my own condo, I gathered a few items, zip ties, a bottle of water, a bottle of alcohol, and, thanks to Jamie's profession as a pharmaceutical sales rep, some knockout pills from her stash of legal drugs. Returning to Cecile's residence, I secured the assailant's hands behind his back with the zip ties and doused him with cold water to rouse him. Once awake, I helped him up, retrieved his keys from his pocket, and escorted him downstairs to his car. After convincing him to swallow the pills with water by passing them off as painkillers, I engaged him in conversation, emphasizing that he was never to return to our condo building. When the pills began taking effect, I poured alcohol on him, cut the zip ties, and stashed them in my pocket before starting his car and locking it shut. Without waiting for the authorities, I made my way back upstairs to check on Cecile. Cecile's door was partially open when I arrived, so I knocked gently before entering further. "Cecile, it's Blake. May I come in to check on you?" I called out. Sure, come in, she murmured. I found her seated on the couch, dressed in a sweatshirt and sweatpants over her negligee, with compresses on her nose and eye. Let me have a look, I said softly as I approached. Carefully, I removed her hand and the compress from her eye. It didn't look good. I think you should let me take you to the emergency room, I insisted firmly. She began to protest, but I interrupted with an even sterner tone. Cecile, I'm not a doctor, but your eye needs attention. We're going to the emergency room, you don't have a choice. Where are your shoes and purse? Resignedly, she pointed them out to me. I helped her put on her shoes, marveling at her even in this situation, and we set off, albeit slowly. As we reached the building's entrance, I steered her away from the police attending to the altercation. They were dealing with the aftermath of the confrontation with the bully. Once in the car, I called my manufacturing facility to inform them of my delay. At the hospital, I assisted Cecile with registration, ensuring her insurance coverage was confirmed. Handing her my business card, I instructed her, call me when you're ready, and I'll pick you up and take you home. You've already done so much, you don't. She started to protest. No, please, call me, I insisted gently. I'll be here in 10 minutes if you need anything. Okay, thanks, she replied weakly, trying to muster a smile. I patted her head and left for my other obligations. Later, as I wrapped up at the facility, Cecile's call came through. Hi Blake, it's Cecile, she greeted with more strength in her voice. Are you ready to leave? I inquired. Well, yeah, but I can get a cab if you're busy, she offered. I'm not busy at all, I reassured her. I'll be there in 15 minutes, just wait inside the emergency room. Okay, thanks, she replied promptly. When I picked her up, she had an eye patch and cotton in her nose. We made a quick stop at the drugstore for pain relief supplies before heading to her condo. How about I bring over dinner for you later? I suggested as she settled on the couch. You don't have to, she began. I want to, I insisted. How about some chicken fingers and organic vegetables? She hesitated, then smiled weakly. Sounds good to me. Here, take this, she said, handing me a key from her purse. So you won't have to knock. I arrived at 6 sharp with dinner, a bottle of wine, and seltzer, using the key Cecile had given me. Once inside, I took a moment to appreciate her tastefully decorated condo, adorned with original paintings that added a cheerful touch. Cecile was seated at the kitchen table, looking notably better than when I last saw her. As we dined and chatted casually, Cecile mentioned, I'm not supposed to mix wine with the pain pills I'm taking. I apologize, I didn't consider that, I replied, pausing and pouring her a glass. Well, I need a couple of glasses anyway, she admitted with a chuckle, nodding for me to continue pouring. You won't take advantage of me if I get tipsy, will you? She joked with a hint of a smile. I'd be no better than that guy if I did, I responded with a light chuckle. But let's try to keep you conscious so I don't have to carry you to bed. After dinner, as I cleared the table, I noticed Cecile's slight reaction to the wine and pain medication mix. She suddenly seemed eager to have a serious conversation. You probably think poorly of me for entertaining men all the time, she began, avoiding eye contact. I certainly do not. Your profession is your business as long as it doesn't infringe on my rights, I assured her sincerely. How long have you suspected I'm an escort? She asked, meeting my gaze with her unpatched eye. Since about a month after you moved in, I replied casually, taking a sip of wine. Do you and your wife? Jamie, was it? She inquired. Jamie, yes. We've never discussed it. Jamie isn't around much, and it's not something we talk about anyway. I don't gossip, and I wouldn't speculate about a neighbor's profession, I explained. After more conversation, where Cecile seemed both curious and relieved to confide in me, she remarked, You're one of the few straight men here who hasn't made advances towards me. Why is that? Because I take my marriage vows seriously, I affirmed. Yet most of my clients are married, she pointed out. But I'm not them. Physically, you're the most attractive woman I've ever seen. But I need an emotional connection for a meaningful relationship, I admitted. So if you're wondering why I haven't made advances, that's why. She fell silent, studying me with her one good eye for a long moment. Despite my clients and my line of work, I'm lonely. I hardly have any friends due to my business and schedule, at least not the kind I'd like to have, she confessed. We engaged in a candid conversation about Cecile's personal life, which led me to inquire, what is your ultimate goal in life, Cecile? I ultimately want what you have. I want a spouse, and eventually even kids. I want someone who is my one and only, and to whom I am true, and vice versa. I'm saving enough money so that I'll be financially independent by the time I'm 30, and then I'll move, give up this lifestyle, and try to find Mr. Right. But my plans are temporarily on hold because until my eye, nose, and these scrapes on my appendages heal, I'm not going to be working. An idea suddenly struck me. Say, how would you like to work for me? I began, but she interrupted sharply. What? I thought you were different, she exclaimed in disbelief, her muscles tensed. Let me finish, I chuckled nervously. Realizing my mistake, I quickly continued, I'm not trying to hire you for sex. I need help with filing, I'm hopelessly behind and keep putting it off. It's something that even a cyclops can do if she puts her mind to it. But I can't pay your normal rate, I explained, now that she had relaxed and even giggled at my cyclops remark. Which is $700 an hour, $2,500 for a full night, $4,000 a day to travel, plus expenses, she blurted out before catching herself, turning red, and covering her mouth. Undeterred, I replied, I can't pay $700 per hour, but I can pay $25 per hour and offer a free meal now and again, until you heal. She giggled. Monday, show me what you want me to do, and I'll let you know. After another 20 minutes of light conversation, it was evident that she was exhausted, so I gathered my belongings. She hugged me while whispering thank you so much into my ear. I kept my distance to avoid any awkwardness. I patted her head and left. Despite the awkward moment at the end, I considered it a wonderful night with a friend, no real sexual undertones. I appreciated her as a person and had never considered the loneliness aspect for her. As I worked in my condo Friday morning, there was a knock on my door. Hi, Blake, greeted Cecile with a smile, dressed conservatively. Hi, Cecile. Feeling any better today? I asked cheerfully. I still hurt like hell, but I'm in a better frame of mind, she chuckled. You probably want your key back. I started, reaching for the key. No, why don't you keep it in case I ever need to be rescued again and the guy won't open the door? I'm here because I hate to ask you for even more help after all that you've done, but I desperately need to get some groceries, and the doctor absolutely precluded me from driving with my eye patch and pain pills. Is there some time today you can take me? For sure, I replied with a big smile. How about 1:30? Great, she giggled, actually clapping her hands together. Just knock on my door when you're ready. Cecile and I had an enjoyable time grocery shopping together. It was surprisingly fun, a first for me as I had never particularly enjoyed it before. With Cecile, however, it was a blast, especially when she engaged in humorous conversations with the vegetables, pretending they were people. The following Monday, Cecile came over to my condo shortly after Jamie left for work. I showed her how to file all the miscellaneous papers scattered around my office and spilling into the living room. She was very meticulous, albeit not fast, considering it was her first time filing. Accuracy mattered more than speed. We had lunch together, continued working, and then I took her to the drugstore to buy some necessities. And so, my friendship with Cecile Wilson began in earnest. I believe I was the only male friend Cecile had had since she was 18. Every other man she met seemed to only have one intention, to pursue her sexually. While I was attracted to her too, she was undoubtedly the most captivating and alluring woman I had ever met. I was married and took my vows seriously. Having had other attractive female friends in the past, I didn't view Cecile solely as a sexual object. With Cecile around, the nights or occasional weekends when Jamie was out of town were no longer lonely. I always had someone to accompany me. Even after she fully healed, about a month later, and looked just as stunning as before the altercation with the jerk, since her regular work hours were weekday mornings and afternoons, with occasional overnight stays or trips out of town, we spent most evenings together when Jamie was away. I also convinced her to attend parties or mixers organized by the condo association, ensuring she had a good time at each event. One thing I learned was that I couldn't bring her along on outings with my male friends. They were too preoccupied either trying to hit on her or ogling her to be enjoyable company. So, Cecile and I mostly did things together, which seemed to suit her just fine. Even when she resumed working as a call girl, she insisted on helping me with my filing. I soon discovered she had a lot of intellectual curiosity and intelligence that had likely been underestimated most of her life. I encouraged her and started teaching her about my business. Whenever I tried to compensate her for her assistance, she always proposed a challenge, like a race in the pool or a competition on the elliptical, for double or nothing. Most times, I ended up paying nothing, which seemed to make her happier than if I had paid her double. I discovered that Cecile was one of the most genuine and compassionate individuals I had ever encountered. She devoted nearly 10 hours to locating the owner of a small purse left at the pool, containing no identification but nearly $100 in cash, and she succeeded in returning it. She recounted an incident where a client experienced a health issue during their encounter, and she promptly escorted him to the hospital and refunded his payment, despite his insistence otherwise. She became emotional when she couldn't save a little bird that collided with a window in our building's lobby, and she rescued a lost puppy, refusing any reward when she reunited it with its owner. She was generous with tips, refrained from gossip or speaking ill of others, and maintained a polite demeanor even in the face of unwanted advances. About 8 or 9 months into our friendship, Cecile surprised me by revealing her acceptance letter to a local community college. "I want to pursue an associate's degree in business administration," she announced with a wide grin. "Could you help me with some of my homework occasionally?" "Absolutely," I replied. "I'm incredibly proud of you." Her excitement at my response was palpable as she rushed over to give me a big hug. Whenever she did so, I made sure to keep a respectable distance, but this time, her embrace lingered longer and tighter, and I couldn't help but worry that she noticed my arousal. However, neither of us acknowledged it. I was pleasantly surprised by Jamie's lack of jealousy as she became increasingly aware of my bond with Cecile. Several factors contributed to this. Firstly, Cecile and I never displayed any public affection. Even in private, our interactions were limited to occasional hugs or chaste kisses on the cheek. Secondly, we had crafted a convincing cover story for Cecile's profession. Thirdly, Cecile began assisting Jamie with her paperwork, which Jamie greatly appreciated. Lastly, I enlisted the help of a longtime gay friend of mine, who discreetly served as Cecile's boyfriend during condo association events and occasionally joined us on double dates with Jamie and me. However, as life would have it, a problem arose, disrupting the smooth course of the past 2 years. One Sunday morning, Jamie abruptly left town for a business trip after receiving a phone call, appearing more flustered than usual. She hastily pulled a stack of documents from her briefcase and asked if Cecile could file them. I agreed, though I couldn't help feeling disappointed about missing our planned apple-picking excursion that afternoon. I quickly sent Cecile a text, "Jamie's gone for business." "Apple-picking this afternoon?" She quickly responded, "Have appointment at 11, any time after 2 is okay," followed by a happy face. We thoroughly enjoyed apple picking and indulging in apple cider donuts, despite the persistent attempts of college guys to peek up Cecile's shorts while she was on a ladder and they're ogling at her in the donut shop. That evening, we had dinner together at my condo and planned to watch a DVD afterwards. Before I inserted the disc into the player, Cecile inquired, "What are these?" as she reached for the pile of papers that Jamie had left scattered on the coffee table. "Oh, those are some papers Jamie left in a rush that she asked if you could file before she returns Wednesday night," I casually replied. "Sure thing," she agreed, attempting to gather the papers together to pick them up. As she did so, something slipped out of the pile and fell onto the floor. I was preoccupied with loading the DVD and only noticed the downward movement. It wasn't until I turned to look at Cecile's face that I realized something was amiss. She held what appeared to be a photograph with a completely stunned expression. "What's that, Cecile?" Nothing, she stammered, hastily placing the photo back into the center of the pile. Cecile was not good at hiding her emotions. Her expression clearly indicated that it wasn't nothing. I approached her gently and said, "Let me see what caught your attention." "No, it's nothing," she insisted, attempting to discreetly move away with the pile of papers in her arms. This only piqued my curiosity further. I gently took hold of her arm and said, "No, I really want to see it. What's the big secret?" As I took the pile from her, she slumped onto the couch and covered her face with her hands. About halfway through the stack, there were 3 6x9 photos, each depicted Jamie naked with a different man engaging in sexual acts, with Jamie posing for the camera. I sat down on the living room rug, stunned, with the third photo in my hand, causing the rest of the pile and 2 other photos to fall to the floor. "I'm so sorry," Cecile said, placing her hand on the side of my face. I stared at her in disbelief. "Maybe they're old photos from before you two got married," she suggested, attempting to find some silver lining. "She didn't get the butterfly tattoo on her left shoulder until 2 years ago," I murmured in response. After a long silence, during which Cecile offered her assistance, I finally said, "Cecile, I need to be alone to process this. Even though you're my best friend, I don't want to talk to anyone right now. Please." I'm certain there was a tear in my eye. I noticed Cecile had tears as well when she hugged me before leaving. It was the only time she hugged me without evoking any other reaction. After a good half hour of crying, I snapped out of it and told myself in the mirror, "Action, not pity, you coward." I was in a frenzy as I searched through Jamie's dresser drawers, boxes on the closet shelves in various rooms, and her office files. One of her desk drawers was locked, so I broke it open. I uncovered numerous pieces of incriminating evidence that shocked me. It wasn't just whether Jamie was cheating on me, but the extent of it and with how many men. I cycled through a range of emotions: anger, humiliation, despair, and disbelief, wondering how I could have been so blind. Sleep eluded me that night, and by Monday, I felt awful. Work was a struggle, and I was overwhelmed trying to figure out what to do about Jamie. Around 2 in the afternoon, there was a knock on my door. It was Cecile, carrying a pitcher of margaritas, which surprised me since I rarely drank more than one at a time, and I had never seen her drink much either. Cecile barged in. "Listen, stud," she said, placing the pitcher on the table, "I canceled my plans for this afternoon. I also informed your employees you won't be available. We're going to get thoroughly drunk. Tomorrow, you can deal with your wife." I tried to protest, but she was adamant. I gathered Jamie's scattered papers, except the 3 photos, and accepted the glass Cecile handed me, which I downed quickly, feeling the burn. Cecile was determined to lift my spirits. After an hour of funny stories and several drinks, maybe more, I lost count, I passed out, the first time since college. I woke up sprawled on the floor next to the couch, with Cecile asleep on it, her arm touching mine. Later, I was awakened by the phone ringing. After the 3rd ring, I realized it was Jamie's cell phone. I unplugged it and returned to the couch, moving Cecile over as I settled in and fell asleep holding her. Cecile and I woke up simultaneously around 4 a.m. Her first comment, delivered with a grin, caught me off guard. "You're the first guy I've slept with who didn't try anything, killer." I played along. "You'll see why when you look in the mirror, Broomhilda," I muttered. "You're no prize yourself, can't tell if I'm talking to your face or your but face," she joked, laughing. We got up, used the bathroom, drank water, and then fell asleep next to each other, fully clothed, on the bedspread in the master bedroom. I woke up around 8 o'clock to the enticing smell of bacon and eggs wafting through the air. Shuffling downstairs to the kitchen, Cecile greeted me cheerfully, announcing that breakfast would be ready soon. "I thought I'd have to light a stick of dynamite to wake you up," she chuckled. Feeling awful, I cringed at my reflection in the mirror. "This is definitely the worst I've ever looked," I muttered. Glancing at Cecile, I noticed she had showered, changed, and even applied some light makeup. She looked stunning, too stunning for someone who had indulged in drinks the day before. Let's take a little break. If you like stories like this, then subscribe to my channel. Continuing the story. I stick around for your charm, not your looks, Cecile teased in response to my self-deprecation as she flipped an egg. Now sit down and hide your face behind a cereal box so I can enjoy my breakfast without losing my appetite. As I dug into the delicious meal, Cecile joked about my appetite, laughing as I devoured multiple servings. Glad to see someone appreciates my cooking, she quipped as I finished my meal. Spotting the remaining portion of a bagel on Cecile's plate, I asked if she planned to finish it, and she playfully tossed it onto my plate, which I promptly devoured. After breakfast, Cecile cleared the dishes and gave me some advice, emphasizing the importance of talking to Jamie in person before making any rash decisions. She kissed me on the lips lightly, remarking on my unshaven appearance before bidding me goodbye. By the end of Tuesday, I had sobered up, cleaned the condo, and organized all the evidence against Jamie. Despite numerous messages from Jamie and others, I avoided all contact and focused on my decision-making process. On Wednesday morning, Jamie arrived unexpectedly, expressing genuine concern for my well-being. I responded sarcastically, leading her to the kitchen where I had laid out the evidence against her. Care to explain this? I demanded, my tone sharp and accusing. Through her tears, Jamie began to babble explanations. She professed her love for me, claimed the affairs meant nothing, and attributed them to her competitive nature in closing business deals. She promised to stop, expressed a desire to move past this, and even suggested starting a family to mend our relationship. I tuned her out, feeling numb. Ignoring her pleas, I gathered all her clothes from the closet and drawers, tossing them carelessly into the guest room. Jamie collapsed in the hallway, sobbing uncontrollably as I locked the bedroom door with the new hardware I had purchased. Leaving Jamie crying behind the locked door, I departed for my manufacturing facility, then went out for dinner and a movie, returning late in the evening to find Jamie still in the living room, looking disheveled with her mother and sister. "Why are you here, Candace?" I snapped, irritated by their presence. My mother-in-law seemed taken aback by my tone, but I felt no inclination to soften my attitude. I addressed Jamie sarcastically, questioning if she had shown her mother the incriminating photos, to which she avoided eye contact. I retreated to my bedroom, locking the door behind me, surprisingly finding peace and sleep that night. The next morning, Jamie was gone, leaving behind a simple note expressing hope for reconciliation. Choosing not to wait for her return, I had divorce papers served to her parents' house on Monday morning, offering two options, a mutual divorce or one based on adultery, accompanied by damning evidence. My note conveyed the ultimatum: choose by 9 a.m. tomorrow or face the consequences. Later that evening, Cecile knocked on my door, suggesting we go out for pizza. Despite my initial reluctance, she insisted, offering to treat me to dinner. "All right," I conceded, turning to head back inside the condo. "No need for that, it's on me." "You just need your keys," Cecile interjected with a smile, seizing my arm and leading me out while grabbing the keys from the nearby table and handing them to me. We dined at our favorite pizza place, known for its organic ingredients. Cecile attempted to lift my spirits with her upbeat attitude, though I remained subdued compared to my usual self. After we finished eating, in the secluded corner of the restaurant, she took my hand and asked, "Have you made a decision?" "Yes, I sent her 2 sets of divorce papers today, one amicable, the other confrontational, and told her to choose. I'll file one of them tomorrow morning," I explained. "No chance of reconciliation?" Cecile inquired. "I've thought it over. Forgiveness isn't possible for me. Fidelity is crucial to me, and she clearly doesn't value it. I won't even entertain the idea of speaking to her again," I affirmed. Cecile alternated between glancing at our joined hands and meeting my gaze. Finally, she spoke earnestly, "Once your divorce is finalized, I want to be with you." "What?" I was taken aback, struggling to process her words. "You're my best friend, and I love you. When we go on our first date, I'll quit my job. I believe in us enough to find another job, regardless of the pay. I have savings to support myself until then, and I'm determined to win you over," she declared. I was stunned by her confession, unaware of her feelings. Cecile interpreted my silence as hesitation, but in reality, I was overwhelmed. I couldn't fathom how she didn't realize that I would not only give her a chance, but also fall deeply in love with her, a goddess who was already my closest friend. The mere thought of being intimate with her sent shivers down my spine. Despite your past, I promise you won't regret loving me if... Cecile began before I cut her off. Enough. I interrupted sharply, leaning in to kiss her fiercely. After a moment, she reciprocated, rising from her seat as our passion intensified over the table. When we finally pulled away, I settled back into my seat. If you're willing to love me, let me outline my plan. We maintain our relationship as it is until 2 weeks before the divorce is finalized. Then, you quit your job, I sell my condo, and you terminate your lease. On the day the divorce is official, we escape to a resort for a week. If you still want us after that, we relocate to a new area, find an apartment together, and if you're still crazy enough to want me, we get married. Cecile's hands flew to her mouth, tears welling up in her eyes. We walked back to our condos hand in hand, feeling more alive than ever. Cecile was practically glowing with joy. Before we parted at our doors, we shared a passionate kiss, disregarding any signs of arousal. We exchanged beaming smiles until the doors closed behind us. That night, lying in bed, I realized how much I wanted our plan to succeed. It was the strongest desire I'd ever felt. However, I anticipated complications, and they began early the next morning when Jamie's father, James, never Jim or Jimmy, called at 7:50 a.m. As soon as I heard his voice, I prepared myself for the conversation. Hello, Blake. This is James Snowden. I was hoping to request an extension of time for Jamie, an hour from your 9 a.m. deadline, so we could meet, he requested. Meeting won't change anything, James, I responded firmly. Blake, you have nothing to lose. If we meet and you still want to proceed with the divorce, I promise Jamie will choose the irreconcilable differences option, and things will move swiftly. Please, you owe me that, he pleaded. Though I didn't owe him anything, considering my eagerness to move forward with Cecile, I agreed to the extension. All right, where should we meet? I conceded. I'll be there in half an hour, he confirmed. After a fruitless meeting with James, where he tried unsuccessfully to persuade me to stay married for financial gain, the divorce proceedings continued. He offered monetary incentives, but I remained steadfast in my decision. Sorry, James, no deal. I'm still trying to understand why Jamie wants to stay married when it seems clear she'd prefer otherwise, I stated firmly. Cheating wasn't her style, Blake, she just lost focus on what was important, James defended. Sorry, I haven't. Make sure she gets the signed papers to my attorney this morning, I concluded, feeling a mixture of determination and sadness for Jamie's situation. Finally, the day arrived. The divorce was finalized. Both Cecile and I would be leaving our condos in 10 days. I had sold my condo and most of its furnishings, excluding my computer equipment, including Jamie's belongings. Cecile's lease was ending, and she had sold her furniture as well. Additionally, I was close to finalizing the sale of the hardware division of my business to my employees. Jamie was notably absent from the final court hearing, represented only by her attorney. I, on the other hand, made sure to attend because I wanted a copy of the decree immediately after the proceedings. Upon knocking on Cecile's door, 5B, post-court, I found my luggage packed for our upcoming resort trip. Expecting Cecile to be ready as well, I was surprised to discover that she was indeed prepared, but not for a trip. She greeted me naked, save for high heels and an ankle bracelet, a sight that nearly overwhelmed me. We have some time before heading to the resort, let's get better acquainted, she teased, gesturing to my noticeably aroused state. Cecile pulled me into her condo by my tie. With her bed already sold, her living room was furnished with couch cushions on the floor. As we kissed passionately, she skillfully undressed me, removing my shirt and boxers while stimulating me. Meanwhile, I reveled in caressing her ample, perfectly contoured breasts. However, I faced a dilemma. I was on the brink of climax, akin to a horny teenager. Breaking our kiss, I confessed, Cecile, I'm close to climaxing. No problem, she replied, deftly adjusting her touch to ease the sensation. You need to pleasure me first, then I'll ensure your satisfaction. With a mischievous giggle, she reclined on the cushions, spreading her toned thighs to reveal her enticing anatomy. Stepping out of my remaining clothes, I focused on her pleasure. Her taste and texture exceeded my expectations, her anatomy delightfully responsive. Though I hesitated to confirm, she appeared to experience a genuine climax, a surprising revelation, given my preconceptions about call girls' experiences. Whether authentic or skillfully simulated, her response was convincing. Following the peak of her pleasure, while I continued to please her orally, she whispered, "Now, make love to me." I eagerly complied, positioning myself to enter her moist warmth. However, her tightness caught me off guard, momentarily delaying our connection. Once fully engaged, she enveloped me with her thighs and initiated a unique experience, contracting her pelvic muscles vigorously. Astonished by her strength and coordination, I reciprocated enthusiastically. The culmination was swift as I released an intense climax into her, met by her own vocal expression of pleasure as we both trembled in shared ecstasy. I may have lost consciousness, or perhaps I was simply delirious. Cecile held me close, providing a comforting embrace. Gradually, I regained my senses and shifted to the side, feeling a pleasurable sensation as my arousal dissipated. Looking into Cecile's face, I found her smiling broadly. "Those were the first genuine orgasms I've had in ages," she exclaimed cheerfully, her grin unwavering. "You know why?" "Because I'm an exceptional sex god," I quipped, laughing. "You wish," she chuckled, before growing serious. "I experienced orgasms because we made love, not just engaged in physical intimacy. I truly love you, Blake. And I love you too, Cecile, even before you showed me a level of pleasure that felt entirely new," I confessed, reciprocating her affection with a kiss. "In addition to loving me, want to know why the experience was so remarkable?" she asked, her excitement palpable. "Because you're a sex goddess?" I guessed. "Almost," she giggled. "I have a unique vaginal structure and powerful pelvic floor muscles." "Really? Tell me more," I inquired, while gently caressing her breast. "My vagina has slight ridges, which my OB/GYN considers highly unusual. It doesn't affect my health, but these irregularities provide added sensation for penises," she explained. "Seriously?" I responded, amazed by the revelation. "Absolutely," she affirmed. I was well aware of how much my penis appreciated her anatomy. "And what about your pelvic floor muscles?" I asked. "I use a device for Kegel exercises with 8 springs, capable of measuring the clamping force. I can exert a force of about 8.5 pounds, almost reaching the maximum limit of 9 pounds, she revealed. "Wow, I definitely felt your muscles at work, and it was incredible. Fabulous doesn't even begin to describe it. Do you have a better word?" I pondered. Cecile smiled. "How about sextastic?" I chuckled. "Let's go with maxi-sextastic." "Sounds good to me." "Now, let's indulge a bit more before we head off on vacation," she suggested, reaching for my scrotum. After another intimate encounter, we dressed and loaded our suitcases into my car, embarking on our journey to the resort. Cecile cuddled up to me for the first hour of the drive before pulling back and addressing me seriously. "Blake, before we proceed any further, there are 4 things I need to tell you. Are you ready?" "Ready," I responded with a grin. "First, my real name isn't Cecile Wilson. It's Barbara Godden, but you can call me Babs for short. I've got a set of fake IDs so convincing that I used them to sign my lease and buy my car. If things go well between us, I plan to completely shed my old identity and cut ties with my past as an escort," she revealed. "Wow, you could give the CIA a run for their money with those skills. Should I start calling you Babs then?" I joked. "Don't call me Babs unless you're ready to put a ring on it," she chuckled. "All right, Cecile, what's next?" I inquired. "I quit escorting the day I told you I loved you and fast-tracked my community college courses. I'm already done with my first year and have started on my second," she disclosed. "That's amazing, for more reasons than one." "You're full of surprises," I remarked genuinely. "I've got more," she grinned. Third, I've been working on a new business idea primarily for the internet. I'll pitch it to you after our resort trip, and if you're interested, we can go into it together, 50-50. I'm eager to hear about it, I said with a smile. Lastly, and this one makes me uncomfortable, she sighed, blushing slightly. If you have any questions about my past as an escort, now's the time to ask. After this week, I want to put it behind me for good. Any mention of it after that will really upset me. It was clear this topic made her uneasy. While I didn't have any burning questions about her past profession, I felt I couldn't just ignore her request. So, I came up with a playful response. After some serious contemplation, I've got one question, and then I'll retire it forever, I teased. She looked at me expectantly. You used to charge $700 an hour, right? I asked. Yeah, she answered tentatively. Well, now that we've made love, I have to wonder, why so cheap? You should have charged 100 times more. I joked. She beamed at me, planting a kiss on my cheek before resting her head on my shoulder. That was the last we spoke of it. Our time at the resort was beyond words. It felt like the perfect honeymoon, even though technically we weren't on one. For me, it was a blend of thrilling activities like snorkeling, jet skiing, and hiking, coupled with intimate moments of dancing and cuddling with a goddess. And then there was the sex, which was truly out of this world. The only issue I had after 7 days was the soreness of both my cock and tongue from our passionate encounters. But it was a happy and contented pain, because I had never felt more fulfilled. By the end of the first day, as we drifted off to sleep in each other's arms after an unforgettable sexual escapade, I knew I wanted to marry her, a decision I made on the 5th day. And when I proposed, she said yes, marking the occasion with an unforgettable experience of her own. We didn't rush into marriage right after our resort getaway. Cecile, or rather Babs, as she preferred to be called, had never been married before, and she wanted her few cherished relatives to be present. So, we waited 3 months and had a modest yet elegant wedding ceremony and reception in our new city. Within 9 months of settling into our new home, Babs completed her associate's degree in business administration. We started working together in my software business, and within 3 more months, we successfully launched her new business venture. She had developed a unique system for maximizing online exposures through hybrid search term recognition. However, after 3 years of running her business, we decided to sell it for a substantial 7-figure sum. Babs had other priorities in mind. Now, my beloved Babs, my best friend, passionate lover, and the love of my life, is pregnant with twins. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel not to miss new videos.